became the CEO in 1994 at the age of 19 and led the company's transformation into a diverse global group focused principally on shipping, aviation, energy, hospitality, and real estate. George has spearheaded his company's support for a range of social responsibility programs that seek to deliver educational and business opportunities for marginalized and underserved groups. George, again, it's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Dr. Sidorf. The pleasure is mine.
Thank you. Can you share with us what you consider to be some of the most important qualities of a great CEO?
I can. So I think a few things. I think, first of all, someone that listens, someone that has overcome adversity, focused on capacity to be resilient, ability to inspire is a good box to check. I think empathy, wisdom, talking to people, not down to them, someone who perhaps is looked up at by many, yet looks down at no one, can facilitate a camaraderie, a unity, deliver a purpose, give meaning to times of difficulty. I mean, these are all quite glamorous qualities, right? But I think certainly my favorite leaders that I have admired and respected and learned from possess all of those. And I think the other commodity that's important in leadership, I think, is to be liked. And I think that's something that kind of, perhaps in the COVID world where human contact has been decimated at the end of the day, and along with human contact going down, so does human trust. It's important to be liked. It's important to have goodwill, to earn goodwill, to deposit, currency in the goodwill jar. People want to work with people they like. They want to work for people they like. They don't wish to work for people they don't like. I'm stating the obvious, but sometimes the obvious needs to be stated.
Yes.
Giving a deeper purpose to a collective of people, I think is also important. The best leaders throughout history have managed to achieve that. And words count. People count. And I think clarity of speech is also an important commodity. So, yes, that's what I would say. If you check all the above, I think you're a great leader.
I would agree with that. You have touched on in the 2 minutes that you gave your response, you've touched on just about everything that some of our thought leaders and speakers up to this point have touched on. One of the things that I know that you do is you make sure that you periodically take a sabbatical. You take time away from, not only from your company, but you actually disconnect, which in this world is so difficult to do. Can you say a little bit about what led you to do that and what you get out of doing that, and how you feel like, even though you're taking time away, it is a great investment of your time?
With pleasure. So Dr. Sidorf, as you know, I started working when I left high school. I didn't go to college. So I started working very young. I worked with my father. We had a family shipping business at the time. It was a small company, but we had big dreams and big ambitions. And I knew I was going to work very, very hard. But I also know that, working too much can limit creativity. It can limit the capacity to think, to reflect, to consolidate one's improvements. And I said to myself when I was a kid, I said I would work for 5 or 6 years extremely hard, and then I would take some time off. I did it. I've done it 4 times. I'm 46 now, so it's crazy to say that I've been working for almost 30 years, but that's the truth. Since the age of 17, I've done 4 sabbaticals. Cut-off means cut-off. So what it means is that I won't be involved in work. No emails, no phones. I mean, in the 1990s, it was easier than today, obviously. And actually, the last sabbatical that I took, I actually got the IT guy to disconnect my phone physically from email. What did it do? It allowed me to think. It allowed me to appreciate. I think the happiest people in the world are the most grateful. And sometimes we get caught up in the daily struggles and ups and downs of life. But reflection time is critical. And a lot of, let's say, my own favorite thoughts have come to me whilst I'm doing nothing, not when doing everything. To give you an example of what I did during some of my sabbaticals, during the last sabbatical, which was about 7 years ago, I took 60 days off from work, and 30 days I was in Greece with my family, my wife and children. And then I gave my assistant at the time a list of 10 subjects that I wanted to master as best I could in a short period of time. And I asked her to invite the top expert she could find of each subject. And I spent 5-6 hours a day with these super masters teaching me. And, some of the subjects, for example, one was about ancient Greek history. I come from Greece originally. I've never studied the roots. We are the product from where we come in so many ways. And so understanding where we have come from is a critical piece, I believe, in understanding where we want to go. I studied psychology. I studied body language. I studied speed reading. It's a fascinating subject. And I spent 5 hours. So I remember times 2 with this speed reading expert who taught me how to speed read. I'd read about it in some book that, you could learn to speed read. So it gave me perspective. It triggered different parts of my mind at a point where I was very relaxed, made plans for the future, appreciated the time of being present with my wife and children. And I would say that it's one of the most important decisions that I've taken is taking a step back, to think clearly. Sometimes we need to clear the trees from the forest to have space to think. One of the most important decisions that was taken in our world was selling a lot of vessels in the last shipping boom, and that decision was taken on sabbatical. So I wasn't doing work, but I was thinking about it. And it's obviously, it's not, I worked very hard to earn the freedom to take a sabbatical. Mm-hmm. I would read, I would think, I would get up in the morning and in Greece, go at 5 o'clock in the morning to the coffee shop with a pen and paper and just write thoughts and ideas. And the time to implement those was when I came back. Life-changing for me, every single one of them. The first sabbatical I did, I traveled around. I was in Vietnam for 6 weeks. I went to Thailand. I'd worked for sort of 6 years. I felt like I'd earned the freedom to do it. And it changed my life. It exposed me to a whole new world. I remember very clearly, Dr. Sidorov. I remember so clearly when I came back from Vietnam, where, this was in 1998. Vietnam was struggling at the time. There was a lot of poverty. And I went and I had a breakfast in a restaurant in London where I lived at the time. And I remember the cost of the coffee at the breakfast was like $5 or $4 or some outrageous amount. I'm thinking, oh God, here's a coffee that cost $4. My hotel in Vietnam was $3 a night, literally at the time. So I think, we can sort of gain perspective by feeding our minds with different information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. George, I'm very curious about that first sabbatical that you took. And the question is, that would feel so risky for most CEOs, leaders to leave and feel like either other people will be able to cover for me, or leave and feel like the ship is not going to sink without me being present. How were you able to, did you have any of those thoughts? And if so, how were you able to address those within yourself?
Look, Dr. Sidorov, as human beings, we are more wired for fear than hope, right? I mean, evolutionarily, it's the fear gene that has made humans win, in a sense, looking at it over many thousands of years. So, of course, I was fearful. I mean, I went to Vietnam with a friend of mine, and we were living on a few dollars a day, traveling around with backpacks. But the brain overcame the fear. I realized that it was an investment in self that had to happen. Now, in terms of being afraid of loss of control, and well, it wasn't a handover from a Monday to a Tuesday. We had a team of people. I was working with my father. My father stepped up and took my position. We had a handover. It took many months to do so. And I had faith that all would be well, and that it was a small loss to get a great gain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm hearing that made the difference were two things. One is your vision that there would be a great gain, and two was the courage to step away and have trust, faith, as you
Yes.
refer to it.
Look, I think nothing of value is easy in this world. I think sometimes expectations of life can be, when they're matched to reality, there's a gap.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I did need, saying it today, 23 years later, it sounded like it was so easy. But you're right, it wasn't easy to get up and just go away for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew it was the right thing to do. It was a protective measure to protect me mentally, physically, from burning out eventually. Because when I work very hard, many, many hours a day. And I realized that, strategic thought comes best during times of peace.
Mm-hmm.
You have time to think and reflect. And again, that word perspective. If we keep inputting the same information into our minds, it's almost like sometimes in today's world, especially in COVID, we live in information pods. And we live within those pods and we get the same information passed to us. You click on one website and then it feeds back to you and you end up in an information loop. But that doesn't give you perspective.
Yes.
That just gives more information. And that means that, we are sometimes not in control of the information flow. Right. And I think controlling the information flow is very important, especially in a world where we're just overwhelmed with it wherever we look.
Yeah. Let me ask you, because you're talking about what takes place during these sabbaticals, what about reflecting inside, perhaps doing your own healing, recognizing some inner issues and dealing with those? Was that a part of the process? And how did that help you, if it was?
Well, Dr. Sidoff, as you know, I had a very checkered health history as a child, and I grew up with many sicknesses. I'm proud of it. I don't regret it. I don't resent it. What it produced was not an expert, but a knowledgeable in the areas of wellness. Mm-hmm. And wellness can be as simple as working out every day, eating properly, and as more advanced as doing meditation and, continuous self-reflection. I put together, as I was growing up and as I was a child, I was always terrified of getting sick. And then when I was a professional in my 20s and 30s, I had a very well thought out wellness regime. And I cannot but suggest it enough. I mean, it's the simple old adage, you are what you eat. If you want to feel better, exercise every day. If you want to enhance self-reflection, meditate every day. It's almost like meditation can be a bridge to the subconscious and can develop, broader areas of our minds in our daily lives. It also creates appreciation. So I'm a huge believer in eating properly because I've tasted the dark side of the coin and looking after myself. And I know what it means to be in hospital. I know what it means to be a child and white walls and doctors and I lived that. And so I'm, again, gratitude, despair versus hope. I mean, despair and hope are different sides of the same coin in many ways, the state of mind.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think, part of the ammunition that we have as people, not just as leaders or employers, employees, or just as people, is to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. You live longer, you feel better, you think better. And it's not easy. It requires discipline. I'm grateful that, what protected me with the discipline was being sick all the time. Mm-hmm. And so it produced a great gratitude for life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the elements that I did, Dr. Sidorov, in the last sabbatical was I'd asked my assistant to look into mindfulness. I mean, I didn't even know, to be honest, what it meant at the time. And you know, a very nice, gentle, smart man came and taught me how to meditate. And you don't know what you don't know. And then I learned it, and it has been a great ally of mine during times of difficulty, adversity, to rely on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know, despite the evidence or what we see, you are both a humble person, but I need to ask you a question, because you have created amazing growth in your company, and I'm wondering what quality that you can talk about allowed you to take some of the bold steps that you took in your business.
Faith, courage, not fear of failure. We're all going to fail. It stares us in the mirror all day long. It's inevitable. The point is not what you do when you fail. The point is what you do after you failed.
Beautiful.
Do you lie down and accept it and succumb to the path of bitterness, or do you get up and keep fighting and fight and fight and fight? And that sort of relentless, never give up. Mm-hmm. We have to start with, it starts with a dream, right? Mm-hmm. Then that's in combination with understanding that, well, dreams are free. Hope is free. It doesn't cost anything to have a dream. You can have a dream, whatever your dream is. But then to understand that it's going to be very difficult. Nothing of value is easy or simple or easy to come by. It comes through very hard work and trusting people, and then, accepting the betrayal of trusted ones eventually as well through life. Mm-hmm. Happens too. And what do you do when faced with a betrayal? What do you do when faced with what's the opposite of betrayal? I don't know. Unbetrayal. But at base, how to handle disappointment, failure, fear, the dark side of the emotions of the moon, I think is a huge determinant in how one progresses.
Yeah. Those beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you. I want to switch gears a little bit, because I know that one of the things that you've spearheaded with your company is really a concern and wanting to do things in the area of social responsibility. Can you share where the impetus for that comes from, and share a little bit about what your company does?
Sure. It's something we're very proud of, Dr. Sidorov, and at the end of the day, I think it just starts with being respectful and kind. Those are free commodities, right? I mean, it doesn't cost anyone anything to be kind. It's free. And so it starts with that mindset. The impetus of the social programs of our group was basically, if everyone who's listening remembers what happened in Greece in 2011 and 12, and there was an economic crisis. And I remember going to Greece in those years, and the young Greeks of the world were looked down upon, but I found them to be brilliant. Now, I would be talking to these 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and thinking, my God, bright eyes. Why do suffering souls breed kind eyes or bright eyes? Which is a whole different question in itself, right? But here was a generation of young people suffering, oppressed by circumstance, in the middle of a huge economic crisis, no future, no feeling of no future, and it made us angry. And I don't say me, I say it made us. And so we put together an internship program. It started with an internship program. It started with us giving young Greek students the opportunity to have an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And they were given 3 to 5 month paid internships within our world. We started off with 10. Obviously, in COVID, that number today, 10 years on, is not the 100 per year that we were taking pre-COVID. But we take maybe 15, 20 a year now in COVID, and hopefully can boost it up post-COVID to where it was. And what happens is, it started there, and then, it doesn't cost much. I mean, for a corporation to have an internship program, it costs time, it costs tickets, it costs the salary. It's not a huge, it's not like building a building or a statue to someone. It's it's empowerment-based, hope-based, and belief-based. Because sometimes at base, the best gift that you can give to someone is to believe in them. We all need someone to believe in us. The president does, the guy in the bank does, the guy in the refugee camp does. And that gift of belief, especially to someone that has not been believed in, is extraordinarily powerful. Mm-hmm. And so it started, Dr. Sidorf, with the internship program, and it has now grown, and there are 8 different programs that, for those that are interested, they can go to libra.social and view them. There is a maternal mental health institute, which we created, my wife created 10 years ago, which, why was my wife the first person to do that? I don't understand. But, mothers are pretty important. They suffer, they endure, especially today where, there is more freedom, more opportunity, but more conflict as well. Do I stay and be a mother? Do I work? Do I do both? There's conflict, So, that organization sees, 200 patients a week, helps mothers and families that have gone through infertility issues, miscarriage, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. It's a wonderful organization of goodness that has changed the lives of many, many, many families. Then there's a convening organization called Concordia. There's a mentorship program. There's a whole selection of programs, and we set them up, we funded them, and they were given a certain time to become financially independent. Several of them were run as 501c3s. We never wanted to use them for the benefit of our business. This is something that we laid down as law. The moment you do that, you put a ceiling on their possibility. And they are live, breathing, organic organizations of goodness, and they have a very strong impact on our business as well. The culture, you create a certain culture. I mean, even just the internship program, each intern is given a mentor and a buddy. But when the interns come into our world, they bring youth, they bring optimism, they bring possibility, and we all need a bit of that. Yeah. If only we could go and drink possibility juice.
When I was in Greece, I met a bunch of your interns, and I was very impressed with all of them. They had this combination of excitement and gratitude that was palpable. And so I saw firsthand the impact of these programs.
Yeah, and Dr. Sidorf, I'll tell you a little secret. I was an intern when I was 16, and I'll never forget that experience. It empowered me. I felt valued. I was given responsibilities. I grew. I stood taller when I left compared to when I came, and it marks me. And ultimately the power of empowerment, power of being believed in, being trusted, being made responsible. You can't grow as a human being if you don't have responsibilities, right? Then you have an invisible ceiling on your possibilities.
Yeah. Well, George, first of all, I greatly appreciate you taking time to come onto this program and really amplify what a lot of our other experts are really talking about in terms of an enlightened leader. And I really appreciate you sharing all of these words of wisdom with us. I've known you for many years, and I've not known you to be anything but what you've presented today and what you've talked about today. So I greatly appreciate our relationship, and I greatly appreciate you coming on and sharing this information with everybody in the audience.
Dr. Sidorf, it's my pleasure. Any way I can help, just ask.
Very good. Very good. Thank you again. We'll talk soon.
All the best. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.